Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cafe New Canadians, a virtual event series wherein every week, multiple times, we'll be talking about interesting topics as we're all at home these days, and conversations and event and topics that we can discuss together so as to make the best of our time at home. The first topic today would be networking amid social distancing. This is the first topic in our series, and we'll be beginning shortly. So, the event series is brought to you by New Canadians. New Canadians is a TV and web series wherein every week we air new episodes on Omni TV, and we bring to you content around employment, settlement, education, everything that revolves around the lives of new immigrants within Canada. Newcomers to Canada can benefit from our content every time they come across the content on our website. I'm Shruti Dargan. I'm your host for today, and we will today be joined by Roxana Radulescu, a consultant, trainer, and master coach, the best person to be talking to about networking and how is it that we can make the most of networking, especially offline these days. Let's get to her.
Yeah. Hi, Shruti. It's so nice to be here. And thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Roxana, for joining us today.
As you said, it's a time where truly we can network because we can also use our technology, and which is exactly what I'm doing right now. So, and by the way, I brought my mug. So, because this is a cafe, brought my mug today. So here we go.
So Roxana, before we begin, I just wanted to ask you a few things. Right now, in this trying COVID-19 situation, we're all at home. And traditional networking is taking a hit right now. No one's being able to go out, meet new individuals. And networking is a huge part within Canada when it comes to broadening one's professional network. So how is it that one can make the most of this while we're all at home? And what essentially are the differences or similarities between offline and online networking to begin with?
And that is the question, isn't it, Trudy? I mean,
Definitely.
These days, what's stopping us and what's not stopping us? I think offline and online is what defines it. Obviously, we can't, with social distancing, we can't network face to face, but social distancing doesn't mean social media distancing. And I think we're so lucky today that we have all of this technology around us that we can use and use even more of it, because networking as a whole anyway had these two different components, right? So there would be offline networking, which means going to events and participating and going and then having a coffee with somebody and discussing some more. So that is the face-to-face interaction. But even before this so-called social distancing, we already were doing this kind of online networking. And I think it's important to leverage that, especially these days when people, because we're working from home, and we ended up working from home almost overnight because we had to. So it's not the kind of work from home that you choose. It is compulsory right now. And people feel isolated, people feel disconnected. And for all of us to maintain a level of mental health, while we're working from home, we need the connection. We need the social connection. We need the human connection. And that can be done very well online. And obviously, LinkedIn is the main professional online networking platform that I'm thinking about right now.
Yeah. So as you just said that, LinkedIn is the main professional network that we all have. How is it that one can, so of course, then LinkedIn being so important, it's also important for us to make sure that our virtual profile on it is impactful. So how is it that one can do that and at the same time stay relevant?
Yeah, That's a very good question. I think with everything going on, first of all, when we network, we always have a networking goal in mind. And I just put here a few examples like seeking employment or building your network, exchanging ideas, and setting yourself as an expert. And they actually don't exclude each other, right? If you look at them, you can have all of these goals and you can use them to build your network on LinkedIn. So first of all, we start with the goal in mind. This is what we're looking at. This is what we want to build. This is why we're connecting. This is our purpose. And then, as you said, of course, on LinkedIn, you have to make sure that you're ready, that your profile is ready. What does your profile say about you? And I can't stress this enough. This is everything that people will see when they look you up on LinkedIn. And because they can't see you now face to face, you can't meet face to face, this is the main portal where people will actually be able to see you. So what does your headline, and I put here a few, just some props of my profile. What does your profile say about you? What does your title say about you? And what does the description in your experience say about you? This is like almost like your business card, right? You're not going to be able to hand out the business card right now face to face because you're not meeting face to face. So this is your online business card. And what you put in there is the first impression that people will make of you. So make sure that your profile is clear enough, that it has a good structure. And I think LinkedIn is very good with giving us the structure that we need to just put in the details, and have good photos of you. First of all, your profile photo. And then if you have any photos of, I don't know, whether it is events or events where you maybe spoke, or events where you coordinated a team or something that tells them that, hey, this person, look, they're involved in this and that. Obviously, they need to be professional photos, but if you have any that can enhance your profile, then it's all for the better.
Yeah. I'd like to actually take a moment to welcome everyone who's also viewing us on YouTube. We're streaming live. And at the same time, invite all our participants to send us questions. You can use the Q&A section over here to send us your questions related to networking, about career-related issues, any concerns that you might have about how is it you can make best use of your time at home right now to still build connections. So, Roxana, um, while you're talking about LinkedIn, what are some of the do's and don'ts specifically to make sure that what we're doing on
Mhm.
LinkedIn is done right?
So I have a few tips for connecting on LinkedIn, and I'm thinking about some things that I've done and
Yeah.
that work for me, but also things that I learned from other people and how they connected with me and what I liked about that. So when you want to connect with somebody, obviously before, when we had, for instance, the face-to-face events and you would attend an event, then you could connect with me on LinkedIn and say, hey, we met at this event and I would like to stay connected here on LinkedIn. Now what you can do is look at the posts or follow posts of people that are maybe in the same industry with you, or if not, something that you're interested in, and connect with them and say something like, hey, I read the article that you shared or the post that you shared, and I liked it so much and think it was so good, and I was wondering if we can stay connected. Or look at the person's profile and see maybe you already have some connections in common, and then you can say something like, I noticed that we have a lot of connections or some connections in common, and I would really love to join your network. It's just a simple connection message that lets them know a little bit about why you want to connect. It doesn't have to be big, but just something of why you want to connect. I also find it useful to follow hashtags. So for me, it's everything related to teams and teamwork and leadership and maybe HR, learning and development and stuff like that. So you follow the hashtags, and those will reveal the posts that are interesting for you because you're following the hashtag and you connect. This is why it's called social media networking, because we connect and you can comment, post, and offer your expert opinion or just personal opinion on the topic and engage with the community. That's huge because then you will get people responding to your post, to your comment, and then you can say something like, hey, we already engaged in a conversation on that post, let's connect. And that's beautiful because that already tells them something about you. You've had an idea, you've expressed your opinion, which they appreciated, so you already have a lot in common. And I think, especially today, and especially now when solidarity is building up, offering help in whatever way you can is going to be huge as well. And I found people who, I don't know, they offer free classes, free piano classes, or I don't know, they make videos about how to cook pizza at home or stuff like that. It which helps you again connect with on LinkedIn, offer your help, and let them know a little bit more about who you are and build those that connection online.
Sure. Thank you for these insights. At this point, I'd like to remind everyone again that the audiences can share questions with us. Any questions that you'd like to ask, you can use the Q&A tab on Zoom and send us your questions. Let's take the first one right now. It's from Sukhjeet. And his question is, of course, LinkedIn is one network that everyone extensively uses. But what if one doesn't use LinkedIn? What other networks or what other services can one use, or how is it that one can connect with other individuals as a job seeker, or to kind of enhance one's employment opportunities, professional opportunities in general?
Um, if you don't use LinkedIn, I strongly recommend that you start using LinkedIn because everybody is here now. Obviously, why I'm saying that is because this is the place where you can socially engage with people. Otherwise, it's going to be um, the kind of one-way communication. You still have email, you still have phone calls available to you, but those are not, it's going to be you emailing them about who you are and what you can help them with. That is what you also have. Definitely do that. You can do that. And that goes with the entrepreneurial mindset that you can have as, especially as a job seeker. So I think looking at companies that I would like to work for or job posts that are already there, of course, I will apply for the job. But if I'm looking up, I'm targeting a specific company, I can definitely email them and say, hey, I'm Roxana, I can do this, this, and that. I've done this, and I would love to help you if you need an extra hand on your team right now. That is valuable. That's good. Also, phone calls. You can definitely call them and say, again, the same thing. Introduce yourself, make sure that you have a strong introduction and are prepared to introduce yourself, and let them know what you can do for them. that is great. But those are just one-off instances that you can use to let them know who you are. And even if they don't have a job opening right then, they will know that you're offering help, you're offering your support, you're offering your skills. But that's a one-off. And then reply, okay? If they don't reply, maybe you do a follow-up once and then that's it. Because obviously you cannot force them to reply, and you're not going to be visible enough. On LinkedIn, you can become visible if you engage with people, and it's a community, and it also gives you a sense of community. And you can ask for help in one of your comments. Look, so I've done this, I've looked for that, I'm connecting with people. What are your suggestions that I should do? And you'll be surprised how much people are responding to all of these help calls, right? They are, especially now, willing to help. They will want to help you with ideas, with suggestions, with advice. And you can leverage that. It's a whole world out there, and you simply become more visible if you use this tool more often.
Yeah. And as you rightly pointed out, of course, emails and phone calls are another way to network. But especially right now when everyone's at home and what we're missing out is that actual community feeling, LinkedIn is a nice space online which kind of offers the same. So why not make the most use of it? Definitely. And at this point, we also have a question. Um, so Dipinder Kaur wants to know that what could be the subject line that one can use when we're making cold calls through emails? So, what's your recommendation for that?
um, I think it should be related to your expertise, to your area, to your industry, or the kind of help that you can offer. So, for instance, when I was cold emailing, and I hate using the expression cold emailing or cold calling, because it can be a friendly introduction. And I was using um, something like um, learning and development professional, how can I help you? And that already told them something about me, right? I was in learning and development, I was a professional, it's not a long line. And it was also a question, how can I help you? Or are you looking to expand your team? Something that is catchy enough and it opens up the conversation. I find that having a short question in that title also helps, because it makes them a little bit curious about reading the content of that email. And don't make it a long email, by the way. Just say a few words in the body email, just maybe two top three paragraphs, and then of course you will be attaching your resume that is relevant for what you're telling them. So if you tell them something like, okay, again, I will use one example, I'm a learning and development professional, and I would say in the body email, look, I have experience with designing and delivering soft skills courses. My main courses of expertise are 1, 2, 3. And then say something like, you need, if you're thinking to extend your team, or you need extra hand on your team right now, I'm happy to chat further and I'm happy to help. And then with my resume, I will make it relevant for what I just said, and make sure that all of those courses and all my experience along the years are going to be there. I'm not going to put everything, the high school that I graduated and stuff like that. I will put the relevant experience, and especially the most relevant one, I will put it on the first page. And keep, by the way, keep your resume 2 pages max. but the first page would be the catchy one.
Thank you for that. And going back to the subject line, there's a difference between when you're offering services and when you're applying for a job. I
Yeah.
understand that, of course, even when you're applying for a job, at the end of the day, you're still offering services. So, would you say that there could be a distinction when someone is applying for jobs and for that particular reason is trying to connect with other individuals in that industry?
hmm So of course, when I'm applying, um, so there are two scenarios. The scenario when I'm applying for a job in that industry and I'm talking to somebody who works at that uh, company where I've seen the job post and I want to apply. And that's the most common thing that we would be doing. And that's why, by the way, it's also good to be on LinkedIn, because you never know when one of your connections actually work at the company where you just saw a job post and you want to apply for that job. Also, depending on how strong your connection is or how comfortable you feel with asking that person about that job post, do it. What works here, and most of the companies also have their own internal referral system. So, and they use it a lot. So, if you're thinking of applying for a job at that company, you have a connection that works at that company. Maybe not even in the department where you want to apply, but they do work there. Connect with them and let them know, hey, I've seen this job post and I'm thinking of applying for this job. What would you recommend? Do I go online? Um, do you have any tips about the department or the job? What do you think? Am I a good fit for it? What's your suggestion? Typically, if they have an internal reference system, they will say, oh, thanks for letting me know. If also they think that you're a strong candidate for the job, they will say something like, thanks for letting me know, and don't apply online because we have this internal referral system. And they will pass your resume over to their, or put it in the system or do something with it. Why I'm saying that is that it actually helps their HR department sort better through the resumes. And then if you were already applied online and also let them know, they won't be able to forward it through their internal system because it will be just duplicate for the HR department or already swamped maybe. So you don't want to do that. Make sure that you ask people. If you know somebody working there, ask them something like, do you think I think I'm a good fit and I want to apply. Do you have any recommendations? Just that. And if they do, they will happily give them to you. Um, Another thing is when I apply for a job and I want to talk to somebody and I want to apply via email, obviously I will be using the job title, and maybe there's a reference number attached to the job, so that it's very clear what I'm applying for, what the email is all about. I will not use something like um, learning and development professional, happy to help you. I will say something like learning and development consultant, um, for da da da, and that already tells them that, hey, okay, good, so you've applied for that specific um, role. Be as specific as possible, especially with the subject line.
Yeah. Thank you, Roxana. So, again, I'd like to remind everyone who's joining us online that we're also streaming live on YouTube, and you can ask your questions over here on Zoom via the question and answer tab. So far, we've discussed the differences and similarities between offline and online networking and come to the conclusion that, of course, there's a lot that is similar. It's just a different approach over here, it's just a different medium, but the rules are similar and same rules apply. We also discussed how LinkedIn is the main professional medium that everyone is using and a great medium to also get that community feeling, especially right now when we're all at home. And we've discussed how is it that beyond LinkedIn, how is it that we can connect with others. Now I'd like to actually, so another question that has been pointed out to us, it's more of a conversation starter about how would you want to link networking to, say, mentoring?
I, how would I, can you repeat that? Because I didn't
Yes.
get it.
So Naseem wants to know that could you please establish a link between networking and mentoring? Because Naseem is working as a mentoring coach and says that it's very difficult to bring mentors and mentees together, specifically around these times when there is this coronavirus situation. So, what would
Oh,
your suggestions or recommendations be for something like that right now?
yeah. Well, it's funny because I also worked as a mentoring coach, and I was also matching mentees and mentors, and I know it does not work all the time. I mean, as we all know, when we network, no matter whether it's online or offline, sometimes we click with the other person, sometimes we don't. It's the case with even now with all of this online networking, it's still the case. Sometimes, and it's not whether or not I agree with you, it's just that we have completely parallel discussions and then we don't click no matter what we do. With mentees and mentors, what I've seen is that sometimes mentees rely a lot on the mentoring coach and on the mentor to do the work in connecting, in establishing that networking, the introduction, the connection, the communication. What I would strongly suggest, and that helps mentees who typically would be newcomers to Canada, is take a little bit of the networking on their own and try to find mentors on their own. So what I would sometimes with some of the mentees, I would recommend that, for instance, they look on LinkedIn for people who have experience in their industry and try to connect with them. Or when they go to a networking event, which is not the case anymore, but it will probably be the case in 6 months from now, at least, I hope. Um, Ask people. You can ask, I mean, you connect with them, you meet over coffee. Now you can have virtual coffees like we have today, and ask them if they would like to mentor you. It doesn't have to be a lifetime relationship. You can have the ask. As we were saying at the beginning of the session today, we're here with a goal. So if my goal is to be on LinkedIn and connect and find a mentor, that is who I'm going to be looking for. And that is the ask that I will have. Again, entrepreneurial mindset. In all of your conversations, you need to have an ask. Even when you offer your help, that's an ask. How can I help you? Or what can I help you with? That's an ask. So bear that in mind. Ask the mentee to also be looking for mentors as well, because that makes them already more responsible for their own fate rather than putting it into the mentoring coach's hands or the mentor's hands. Because it is true that there are simply not enough mentors for all the mentees that need a mentor right now. And so that's why I think engaging the mentee in actually looking for mentors goes a long way. also for you as a mentoring coach, because it will be easier to connect them to the mentor and manage that relationship mentee mentor if they already want to work together. So that's huge. I don't know. I hope it helps and I hope I answered the question.
Yeah. So, Roxana, networking, as I understand, whether offline or online, has a few steps, right? And please correct me if I'm wrong here. The first one, of course, is finding that prospective person that you would like to connect with.
Mhm.
Then establishing the connection, and before that, at the same time, creating your presence, which would be noticed as well. So these are a few things that we've discussed. Now, okay, we've written to the person via an email or connected on LinkedIn, but sometimes people don't respond to messages,
Mhm.
and that happens more than often. So Dipinder has asked the second question in that how long should we wait to follow up, and how can one do that best?
Okay, so the first one is really easy. You follow up maybe a week or so later, and then say something like, I wonder if you saw my message, because I would really appreciate to connect with you," or something sweet and short, nothing much. And then if they still don't respond, then don't wait for one or two or three people to get back to you. Look for other people. I mean, LinkedIn is full of professionals that are happy to help, provided that they themselves are well, are safe, are not too busy, and sometimes they miss the message, or maybe they're not checking their LinkedIn too often. So when they check it, it may be a month from now. That's why I would say just follow up once and make it sweet, make it short, make it specific, and then that's it. And whenever they see the message, if they are able to respond, they will. Otherwise, if you just keep following up, when they finally get to check their messages on LinkedIn, they will see this long list of follow ups, and that doesn't make a good impression on you. So if people don't respond, and I know how it is, because yeah, people are busy, people are everywhere. Maybe they don't feel like they can connect with anybody new right now. Who knows? They can have different reasons of why they're not responding. Look for other people. That's why engaging in conversations, engaging on posts that actually say something to you, and connecting with people who post there, that's going to be maybe even more valuable, because that already tells you they are there. They will check their LinkedIn more often. They will contribute on LinkedIn more often, and you already have something in common. So you can already say, hey, both following this post, or we're both commenting on this post, and I like your idea. Let's stay connected, or something like that. Can we have a virtual coffee one of these days to talk about the topic more? Find something that you already have in common with them.
Yeah. So a weekly reminder or a weekly follow up is a
Yeah,
healthy waiting period accordingly, right?
yeah. Make it 1 week after, and then just wait. Give it another 2 or 3 weeks. Don't put too much energy there, because then what that does to you is you're going to feel even more frustrated if they still don't respond. And again, you can't force them. You don't know what's going on in their lives. Maybe they would like to respond to you, but they don't have access to the internet. I don't know. But just reminding yourself, hey, this person hasn't responded to me, and I've sent all of these reminder messages, is gonna end up in you feeling frustrated and not looking for other people who might engage in conversation with
Yeah. I'll take a moment again to now also speak to our viewers on YouTube as we're live streaming this. If there are any questions that you'd like to ask us, you can obviously write in the comment section there, or you could ask us here as we're doing this webinar on Zoom via the Q&A tab. So, Roxana, moving forward, um, like you said, it's important to keep this communication channel open. That's one of the important aspects of networking. So, how is it that one can do that best? And the end result, the end goal for everyone is that, when, of course, the times allow us, we should be able to have that in person coffee chat. And as you said right now, I like the concept of virtual coffees. So how is it that one can, be persistent after follow up as well to make sure that this connection on LinkedIn materializes into an in person meeting eventually?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think we don't know now enough about when an in-person meeting is going to be possible. So I think let's take it step by step. Let's connect with somebody, find something that we already have in common with them, message them, and then say, okay, let's discuss about this idea more because I like it, or I'm interested in finding out more. And then suggest let's connect over Zoom or Skype or whatever works for you, right? And set up that virtual meeting. I think don't wait. Whatever you do, don't wait for times to get back to normal so you can meet people. You can meet people as we are meeting here today. I think we're kind of making the point for that. So don't wait for this crisis to be over before you do anything else. You can prepare your ground for when the crisis is over. And if you've already had a virtual conversation with somebody right now during the crisis, I bet when the crisis is over, if you suggest, okay, let's finally meet face to face for coffee, they will not say no. So just take it step by step, connect with as many people as possible, see who responds. Out of 100 people, 20 will respond, right? If you just go for 5 people that you want to connect and stay stuck on them responding to you, you're not going to move too fast, or you're not going to get any further than you maybe are right now. So connect with people and take it step by step. Suggest virtual meetings. Don't be afraid to meet people like that virtually, because that goes a long way.
Like you rightly said, like coffee chats, informational interviews, these are an essential part of networking.
Yeah.
And specifically in the present situation right now, why wait for that day when we can actually meet in person? It's the
Yeah.
best time to utilize to be able to have coffee chats online and have these interviews online, try and understand more about job positions. So while you're encouraging people to do that more and more, are there any tips or any messages that you'd like to share about how is it that one can prepare best for that? Because
Mm-hmm.
if it's an online interview, even if it's an informational interview, what are the rules that apply here so as to look professional via a Zoom interview, online conversation, video interviews?
Yeah, and that's a very good question, because what happened when everybody started to work online from home, people suddenly realized the things that they didn't think about. For instance, the background behind you. There were people who were maybe in their living room or in the kitchen, and there was the liquor cabinet behind them, or something messy behind them, or they had the window behind them, and then you could not see their face. So make sure that you are set in a place where you have enough light, and where the background is either, ideally, if you have a white wall, then fine, or if you have some a shelf with books on it, then fine, or something that is not messy and that doesn't capture the attention of the people who watch you, because and that don't doesn't give away too much about
Yeah,
you,
that isn't
right?
distracting, right?
So exactly. So
Yeah.
use a simple background and have enough light, and also like we're doing now, and maybe you can rehearse a little bit to see how you are on camera before you go live and meet that person. You just go on Zoom, for instance, and press camera and you see yourself, right? And make sure that everything is in place, that you are at the same height um, with the camera. You're not too high, you're not too low. And you also want to look at the camera as much as you can when you talk to people. Ideally, let them see you. I mean, from the waist up or from the shoulders up, let them see you. So you don't have only your big head on the screen, and then that's it, because that can also be intimidating. I mean, I know it's online, but then if I only see your face and nothing else, that's going to be a little bit too much for me. So make sure that I know that these are details that seem maybe too simple and irrelevant, but trust me, they are relevant, especially when you meet somebody for the first time. It's the first impressions, right? You only have one chance for first impressions. So make sure that you're comfortable with the environment and practice a little bit so that you don't get also distracted by looking at yourself as you speak, because that's another thing that can happen. Of course, the more conversations you have with people online, you will get more used to that, but make sure that you rehearse a little bit before.
Thank you again for that. So, as a roundup, then would you like to possibly conclude with a few uh, final tips that you have, and then we could proceed to the question and answers for from the audience. More questions, we'll entertain those one by one.
Mhm. So I strongly encourage you to take advantage of technology and the online platforms, and especially LinkedIn. That's where most of the professionals are connecting right now. Definitely make sure that your profile says about you what you would like it to say about you and what you want people to know about you when they first look you up. Connect with people. Don't be afraid to connect with them and leverage this situation on and make it an advantage. Turn it into an advantage, because it can be. And reach out to people. Follow articles, posts, or subject matter experts in your industry on LinkedIn. Hashtags, they're super powerful because they give you the content you want. Follow those, engage with people. It's social media networking. That means engaging with people and creating that network. And then take it off offline online. Send a private message to that person, say something about what you have in common, suggest an online meeting, meet with them, and that's like an informal interview. When you meet somebody who's in your industry, they find out about you, you want to know about them, don't forget to ask them questions about themselves. Stay connected with them, send a thank you afterwards, keep connected, and then when finally the crisis is over, invite them for coffee and they will say yes.
Thank you. I really hope that that is exactly what happens with all of our viewers, and we're trying to do the same.
We'll have a lot of coffees, I think.
For sure. I think let's move to the question and answer session now. We'll encourage everyone to post questions, and we'll try and answer as many as we can right now. So Nazim, who had asked the first question about mentoring and networking to be connected, has a follow-up question here. Um, their concern is that there are 16 duos and they'd like to get some advice about how to stimulate the contact between them. because not everyone is, again, in contact with each other online. And the mentors and mentees are required to meet 2 times a month. So,
Yeah.
any advice that you have for something like that, that, when the requirement is that you're supposed to be meeting, say, so many times a month, and how is it that one can establish that connection and make sure that it continues to kind of go on very smoothly?
So I would, I'd be curious of why they are not connecting online and what you mean by, because they can, online can mean um, emails, phone calls, texting, and then all of the other video platforms like Skype, Teams, Google Hangouts, Zoom, and all of these platforms. So I wonder when we talk about online, what we're actually talking about. Because if they don't have access to the internet, yes, that's going to be an issue, because that means that takes out all of the emails and all of the video chat platforms. They still have the calls. So they can still connect via phone, and they can still text each other with maybe if the mentee has a short question, maybe even the best answer. And the fastest way is to text the mentor if that works for them. What I find is that usually when this happens between mentees and mentors, they haven't decided on what the best communication platform for them is. This has to be a conversation between them. So it has to be, okay, best way to connect with me is this. And then I know that if my mentor says best way to connect is email and best send it to me in the morning, because that's when I see it, that's when I will email the mentor, right? So I think it has to be, as a mentoring coach, I would make sure that I ask them what prevents them from connecting. Is it the technology, or is it just because they haven't agreed on the right communication channel that works for both of them?
We have another question related to networking. So, David would like to know, just a second, I'll ask you the question again. Yes. So, David's question is that how do you select or find the right mentor? And what should I look at when trying to network and find the right mentor to achieve my goals as a newcomer in Canada?
Mm-hmm. So you want to have a look at your industry, and what you can do on LinkedIn, for instance. You can search for people with um, by job titles or roles. Or if you're looking to work in one company or another, you can simply look for people who work there, and try to connect with them. But more than that, if you follow, I don't know exactly the field that you work in, but if you work in finance and banking, for instance, you definitely, there's a hashtag there for finance, for banking. Follow those hashtags, and now, because you will have your profile, in your profile you say that you're in Canada, and probably in Toronto or the GTA, it will show you the posts that are um, based on that specific hashtag, and the people that are going to be in the same area with you first. And then it will be people from all over the world. But I would suggest following hashtags and looking for people on specific roles and job descriptions and job names, job titles. Look for them and try to connect with that way first. And if you find some of them who are posting things online on LinkedIn, and you engage with them in the conversation first, that will help you. By the way, LinkedIn also has the follow function, not just the connect one. So you can find somebody that might be a good mentor for you, follow them, see what they post, connect with them on their post, comment something, bring value to the conversation, and then send them a connection request. And that will usually that works faster. And then you can take the discussion offline and maybe ask for an online meeting at some point. Don't be too fast in asking for that. You can keep engaging with them in the conversation, and then at some point, look, it would be nice to connect with you and discuss about this idea further, and meet online. And then at some point, you can ask them, look, I think you would make a great mentor for me, and I would love to learn from you if that is something that you would like to do. And see what they say. If you don't ask, you'll never know.
That's for sure. I'd like to remind everyone that we'll be ending the session shortly. We still have a few minutes to go. There's another question, and but before that, if there's anyone else who would like to ask us questions, please type your questions in the Q&A tab on Zoom, or you could also type them in the live chat on YouTube, as we're also live streaming this. Um, as for the question now, this one is again from Dipinder. And while we were earlier discussing about follow ups, this question particularly is about that what should the follow up or email message look like? You have answered this briefly, but if there's anything that you'd like to add to, what kind of messages can one share when it comes to following up after the first chat, or
Um,
after one has just maybe shared a connection request?
um, right. So if we're talking about LinkedIn specifically, then I think we already covered that. So it's normally a message that you send to somebody. If you send them a connection request and they don't accept it, there's nothing much that you can do, because it's really all up to them. So don't think about things that you can't control. Think about things that you can control. So you can still follow somebody if you think they what they say and the information that they share and post is relevant and super interesting to you. If we're talking about emails, then especially these days with everybody working from home and everybody communicating online, you might expect that people have a long list of unread emails in their inbox. So I would give it maybe even more than just a week, maybe a week and a half or two before I follow up and say something like, I really hope you're safe and well. Address the situation. Um, don't be afraid to address it, because this says something about you. You care about that person, and you. I think, especially these days, we must not assume that they don't want to respond, and they do that because they simply don't care. They just we can easily assume that they're flooded with emails and information that they are supposed to give to other people. So you can say something, I hope you're safe and well. I was wondering if there is any information I can add to my email below. Would be great to connect with you. Just give me a time and a date when we could connect, and I can set up a short call. If they still don't reply to that, you can again follow up a week and a half or so afterwards, and just remind them again about the email and that. But suggest something, suggest a short call, suggest um, a phone call or a video call. I think people will take phone calls rather than video calls, especially if the conversation is via email. So suggest something instead of saying, I'm wondering if you read my email. Um, Let me know. Looking forward to hearing from you. That doesn't tell me much. that doesn't bring any action in my life. It doesn't make me do anything with that. So suggest something. Let's connect. It would be great to connect.
Yeah. Like you said, it's all about a give and take. You give more, you also wait for that take. And at the same time, I mean, if you're not really, if that conversation isn't taking you anywhere, it's best to focus energies on the multiple other conversations that we're trying to have at the same time. Like how we're trying to have those coffee chats with just about everyone possible right now. But
Yeah,
yes, so thank you, Roxana, for joining us today for this lovely discussion and
yeah. Thank
conversation
you.
on this topic of networking. This was all about networking amid social distancing, something that's really important right now. And thank you also to our audiences who watched us on Zoom and live on YouTube as well. With this, we've reached the end of this virtual chat that we've have been having. As for Cafe New Canadians, is this event series that we're bringing out for our viewers, for new Canadians, for newcomers, to interact with us, to have these conversations with us about everything that we can do, learn more while we're inside in our homes. And the first topic discussed today was networking, and there'll be lots more coming up soon, multiple times every week. For new Canadians, you can actually follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. We're there out on all of these social platforms. Connect with us, interact with us. You can also learn about us with our monthly newsletter, subscribe to it, and get so that you never miss out on our top stories. And at the same time, you can follow us on YouTube. We post our videos on YouTube as well. You can check out our website for more on our content. And uh, like I said, we'll have a lot of other sessions soon. And the next one, again, will be taking this discussion about networking, specifically offline networking and online networking, and what all we can do further. And we will be joined by Brent Edwards, and who will talk about how you can diversify your personal network for professional growth. And that is something that's lined up for Thursday, March 26th. So you can register for it on our website on New Canadians, and watch out that space for all the sessions that will be coming up next. Thank you, Roxana, once again. Thank you to the audiences,
Thank
and
you.
stay safe and stay inside.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much.